Welcome back everybody, Dan here. Thanks so much for joining in for another video. What today's video is going to be is my first impressions after the build for this GT Omega Prime Lite cockpit. I like to do this anytime I put a rig together. This is not a real highly edited video or anything like that. This is just my first impressions, things that I see that I jot down on my phone as I'm putting a rig together. And I put that stuff into a video like this to kind of just give you my initial impressions as I was putting it together. And that's what this is going to be. Now, I will do an official full review on this down the road once I've actually used it. I haven't even sat in this rig. I've just finished putting it together. I haven't even taken it off the table. And the reason why I have this rig is because I wanted to compare it. I want to review it and I also want to compare it to its direct competitor, which I have as my primary rig, which is the Track Racer TR80 Lite. They're very similar in price and as far as their shape and size and how they work and all that. So I wanted to find out for myself and for you guys which one of these is going to be the better bargain. So I reached out, and this is a disclaimer here, I reached out to GT Omega and asked them if they would send me one of these, and they did. So just a little disclaimer, they sent me this rig for free to review and to compare against that one. But they have no input on what I say. They're not going to see this video before you or any of that stuff. These are all my views and opinions in this video and any future videos that you see. But I just want to give you that disclaimer and tell you how I ended up with this. So how this is going to work, and I did the exact same thing on this other rig down here. I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Basically, I've jotted some things down on my phone in the notes as I was putting this together. And I'm just going to go through them and kind of tell you what I thought, things I ran into, issues that I think we might potentially have down the road once we start using it, just stuff like that. And so we're just going to kind of go random and go through them here. So first thing I want to talk about is the build process as a whole in general. So this thing actually came together pretty easy. I don't think it's necessarily because of the rig itself. I think it's just as you do quite a few of these, as I have, this is like my fourth or fifth time putting a profile rig together, you kind of figure out tips and tricks along the way that makes the process smoother. So I don't think that this is necessarily any easier. This particular one wasn't any easier to put together than any of the other ones I've put together before. It's just as you do it, you start to learn tricks and it just becomes easier. So this one actually went together pretty smooth and pretty easily. And yeah, so I was pretty happy about that. Like I said, I don't know why that is. I think I've just done a bunch of them, but I have put together a video prior to this. It's a tips and tricks video to putting profile rigs together. So if you're going to put a profile rig together anytime soon, I highly recommend you go check out that video because I have learned a bunch of stuff along the way and I put that together in a video. It's not a long video, but there are very helpful tricks, or tips, I guess you would say. For example, building these up on a table rather than on a floor is hugely helpful. It's going to help you not break your back and stuff like that. But I'll put the link for that video in the description below. But yeah, as I say, this thing came together pretty easily. There was no missing parts. As a matter of fact, I have lots of spare parts and stuff like that, which is pretty typical for all these profile rigs. So yeah, so it was pretty painless and pretty easy. Now, I will say if this is going to be your first time putting a profile rig together, you're going to want to take your time because these can be pretty daunting tasks if you've never done this before. And if you get to doing this and you have any questions, run into any issues, of course, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. So there's always that option if you want to do that. All right, so next on my list is the fact that they include paper directions. When I opened the box and I saw these, I was very pleased and very happy. Now, this may seem like something small, but you do not get paper directions very often in rigs anymore. For example, my TR80 Lite over here, it was a PDF document you had to download online, so you're constantly looking back and forth between your computer and your rig. And maybe I'm old school, I don't know what it is, but I like the fact that they included directions, and not only directions, they're very good directions. They were very easy to follow and worked out very well. And yeah, so that's just one thing I wanted to point out because you don't always get paper directions. So I appreciate the fact that they added them in. So we're going to back up just a little bit. We'll talk about the packaging here because that's always important too. The packaging and the way they shipped my TR80 Lite was a little bit subpar. But I'm pleased to say the GT Omega, it was all packaged very well. It was put together in minimal boxes. They all came at the same time. And things that typically are a little bit of an annoyance ended up being okay as far as packaging goes here. And nothing was really destroyed or dented or bent or scratched. The seat was in great condition, all that good stuff. And that's all due to the way that they package it and then they ship it all at the same time and it comes at the same time. So that is not always the case. So it was very nice to see that the packaging was pretty solid in this case. All right, so now I want to talk about the seat. And the seat is just okay here. Now, GT Omega has a bunch of different seats, and I think at this point I've almost used all of them. There may be one that I haven't used, but I've used probably 5 different seats from them. This one is okay, but it's definitely not what I would consider a really quality component. This is the RS12 seat. It is the most new seat that they have, and I did get the all cloth black version. Maybe if I had got the cloth and leather version or the all leather version, it would have been a little bit better quality. I know that GT Omega, and I'm not going to say I know this, I don't believe that GT Omega actually builds the seats themselves. I'm pretty sure that they outsource them to some other company, and I don't know if they're using different company now than what they used to, because GT Omega seats, even the RS6, which is the cheapest seat, which I've done videos on before, was a really nice quality seat, and I would say that this RS12 is a little less nice. There's just little things like the stitching isn't as quality as I would have liked it. I mean, it's not terrible. It's kind of on par with what you expect for sim racing, but it's just a little lower than I would like. You know, I took a couple of pictures and I'll kind of show you some pictures of various things that I see that are kind of like, so-so, not great, not terrible, but not great. It's just not an overwhelmingly nice seat. The logo on the top is clearly crooked. They obviously didn't look at it before they sent it out. You know, it's just little stuff like that. It's not a huge deal, but it is a little bit annoying. In general, the seat itself is not the most utmost quality if you get it, but it will work. I mean, it'll work fine. And, you know, and I'll let you know in the review whether or not how comfortable it is. I haven't even sat in it yet. Just put it together. But I just wanted to share that with you. Now, still on the seat here, one thing I do want to say that is a huge positive is it came with a slider. This is a complaint that I have had from other manufacturers in the past. If I pay you a lot of money for a seat, now I didn't pay for this one, but I did pay for the seat on my TR80 Lite here. But if you, as a customer, pay for a seat, it needs to come with a slider, and I'm happy to say that this did come with a slider, where a lot of manufacturers do not come with the slider, and they also don't give you, some of them, hint, hint, the TR80 here, the track racer, they don't give you enough information letting you know it's not going to come with it, so then you're just surprised like I was when you get it in. But just so you know, it did come with a slider. I wasn't sure due to what I went through with this rig over here to my right, but anyways, I'm happy to say that it came with a slider. Also, the other thing I want to say about the seat is it comes in 2 pieces, so you have to put it together. I'm going to put some pictures of this because you can't really see it, but the mechanism, the bracket, the way the top seat slides into the adjustment brackets on the bottom, I really like the way they did it here. It only can go in one way. There's no room for error. You don't have to fiddle around a lot like you typically do trying to get the top and the bottom of the seat to line up. Typically, you need 2 people to put this together, but the way they've done the bracket system here, the top literally slides only one way into the bottom brackets, and they line the bolt holes up perfectly, and you can literally do it by yourself, and I did it by myself. So that was actually really nice. Also, the plastic components on the side, which is not really a huge deal either way, that stuff popped in pretty good. It's not sticking off. It all looks pretty decent, and it looks good. It's just, some of it is great. You know, that kind of aspect of it is really good, but it's some of the seat quality itself and the stitching and stuff, it's not so great. But overall, it's just fine. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the chassis itself and the uprights, and specifically the brackets right here that hold the uprights together. I really do like the way that they've done this. What they've done is they've got a piece of solid steel that is, I don't even know what it's called, but it's almost like concave bolt holes in it. So when the bolt holes, they slide in, they're actually flush with this piece, with this bracket, which means you can bolt into this piece of profile and you can bolt into this piece of profile, and it all smushes it together with no gaps. What that does is that creates a super tight, now you're seeing the table wobble here. If you're seeing any wobbles to table, this profile rig, I mean, this is extremely solid. There's no give in this. And that I think that's going to be pretty solid, even though these light profile rigs are meant to be less durable, not less durable, they're meant to be less sturdy and stuff like that. The way they've designed this one with this bracket system, I think it's going to be extremely sturdy. All right, and then on that same note, we're going to move to the wheel deck here. Now, I'm on the fence about whether or not I like the way they do this deck. I know why they did it, because they want to allow for a piece of profile to span between these uprights, because that makes everything super strong. But what that means is they had to come up with a bracket to sit on top of that piece of profile instead of just mounting, instead of this top being part of the mounting system for the wheelbase, like for example it is in my TR80, which is also sturdy, but I don't know, they just have plus and minuses. The issue that I have with this bracket is not the bracket itself. It's the fact that it has almost infinite angular adjustment. And I'll take some pictures of this and show you this too. But where the bolts and the nuts go through, it's not slotted. So there's the potential this could happen. I don't know if it's going to happen for sure, but there is the potential that no matter how tight you get these screws and these bolts, because it's not notched out, physical notches, and they do that so that you have like infinite angular adjustment. If you have a really strong and a really heavy wheelbase and you have the force feedback turned up over time, this kind of design is always going to have the possibility of over time the wheel deck angle falling, because it's just only so tight you can get this. I hope you guys can tell what I'm talking about here, but I'll put some pictures. It's just not excuse me, it's not as sturdy as it could potentially be the way they've designed it here. Of course, I won't know that for sure until I test it. These are just all things that I see as I was building it, as potential things that could happen. And of course, when I do the full review, I will let you know if that ended up being a problem at all. It may not even be a problem, but we will have to see, and I'll let you know that in the review. But I just wanted to note that because that's something I noticed immediately as I started putting this on the rig and bolting it together. I was like, I've seen this style before, and I've seen it cause issues before, and so we may have the same situation here, we may not, but I just wanted to mention it in this video. Next thing I want to talk about is the pedal tray. All right, so the pedal tray here, I'm kind of on the fence about too. I think it may be just fine depending on what kind of pedals you put on here, but it's pretty thin. And I also am not crazy about the way they have given us the ability to adjust the angle up front. I am glad that they give us the ability to adjust the angle up front, because every pedal set is different and everybody wants their pedals to be angled different. So I like the fact that you have the ability to angle it different, but just the way they went about it, I think is probably not the best. And for example, I can take my hand here, just my hand alone, I can bend these brackets. You probably can't see that, but just take my word for that. I am bending the top of those brackets just by pushing with my thumbs. So, and again, I won't know this for sure until I start testing it, but I'm assuming there is going to be some flex if you put some heavy duty pedals on this pedal tray. Maybe not. I don't know. What I'm going to do to make sure it doesn't happen is keep the tray flat like I have here. And I think the lower you have the tray, the thicker those brackets get at the bottom, and the more it's going to minimize the opportunity or the possibility of it moving. And of course, we're also talking about a side-to-side movement, which typically isn't going to happen when you're pressing forward on pedals. But, you know, with these profile rigs, the more sturdy they are, the better in general. And so that's just something I noticed. The back is just a traditional bolt that goes into the profile, which I think is the best way to do it. Out of all the profile rigs that I have used, that is the best way to do a pedal tray. You literally just have it bolted into the profile. Unfortunately, what that means is there's not going to be a ton of adjustment, only a couple of inches, where here you've got, I don't know, what's that, 6-8 inches of adjustment. So it's kind of a toss-up of whether or not you want a bunch of adjustment, or if you want it to be super sturdy. That's the other end of the fence, but you have to kind of pick. And what GT Omega has done here is they have picked the angle of giving you ultimate adjustability. But I wish that these brackets were I wish everything was just a little bit thicker when it comes to the pedal tray, because I think that could potentially cause issues, maybe. Again, we will see in the full review. This is not a full review. And that will be coming out after I've had some time testing it. Okay, so here's another thing. This is a huge positive. This rig from the gate, paying the base price. So if you just put this rig with a seat in your cart and don't add anything else to it, This comes with an extended shifter mount. And why that is important is because most rigs, unless you add some additional components that you can optionally add in, like my TR80 Lite here, they'll just come with a piece of profile that's maybe this long, and it bolts right here, and it kind of just sticks out on the end, and there's nothing holding it down. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but I will take some pictures of this, and it will be in the video so you can see from over here. We have got support on this shifter arm, not only here on the wheel upright, but there's also a piece of profile at the back holding the back of this long arm. So this whole arm here, this is all together in one piece. Now, that's not just great for a shifter. What that really does is, because it has this long piece of profile that is mounted to the uprights and almost near the back of the entire rig, it adds, believe it or not, a ton of stability in the wheel deck. It really does, because I've used it without and I've used them with, and you can feel the movement in these uprights if you do not have something in the back also supporting this front and back movement. It'll be minor. You probably can't see it by eye, but you do feel it. Where you really feel it is if you have like a strong sequential shifter and you're hammering on those sequential shifters. If there's no back support on the bar that the shifter sits on, every time you yank on that sequential shifter, or even an H-pattern shifter, every time you move it, you feel it in your other hand through your steering wheel. Because there is, believe it or not, some movement front to back if you don't have that bracket in the rear. So I know I've kind of gone on about this, but I just wanted to make sure that you know the importance of having that rear bracket. If you buy any profile rig at all, and it doesn't come with it, like my TR80 did not come with it, you need to pay extra and get the rear support, because it makes a huge difference in overall structure rigidity of the rig. It's not just for the shifter, it's a two-purpose thing there. And you really need to have it. It's something you need to have. So the fact that this comes with that at its base price, and it also comes with the slider at its base price, and you don't have to add anything into it, is actually pretty huge. And those are definitely positives for going with this rig. Yeah, just overall, I think it's pretty good. Again, the things I have some questions on are going to be whether or not the angle support here is going to hold up with abusive, heavy force feedback. If any flex is going to happen because of these pretty slim, these brackets for the shifter, or for the pedal tray. I mean, I can literally bend it with my finger, and I'm a weakling. So, if I can move it, there's a chance there's going to be some flex, but I don't know for sure. But I just wanted to run through this stuff. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think the whole package here would be very sturdy. One of the things you need to know about any one of these profile rigs, even the light rigs like this, is they are going to be so much more sturdy. The tubular non-profile rigs, they just do not have the stability. I've used them. They just do not have the stability and the rigidness of a profile rig. My recommendation is, if you're going to go with a full rig at all, just go ahead and get a profile rig. Just go ahead and get a profile rig. Doesn't matter, whatever manufacturer you like. They're all very similar, some bigger, some smaller. The reason why I prefer these smaller footprint rigs, like the TR80 Lite or this Prime Lite, I've also used the SimLab GT1 Evo in the past, which is very similar to both of these, is because you still have extreme stability and extreme sturdiness, but they have a smaller footprint. So it's easier to fit them where you need to. The additional sturdiness that you're going to get over a larger, more bulky profile rig over something like that is going to be marginal at best. And so, at least in my eyes, I would prefer having almost the exact same amount of sturdiness, but also the small form factor to be able to fit it in my small room. Now, if you have a big space and you're going to run huge triples anyways, then by all means get a gigantic rig, and it'll just cost more. But yes, it will be more stable marginally though. But yeah, These profile rigs are awesome. Doesn't matter the brand. Honestly, it doesn't matter the brand. They're all awesome. But look, I am going to do a full review on this. Oh yes, I'm sorry. I did forget something. I didn't have this on my phone. I want to talk about, if you'll notice, I haven't put the end caps on the profile. So all the end of the profiles are very sharp. So they come with end caps. This is the first time that I've seen an end cap like this. I'll take a picture of it as well. That actually has cutouts the same shape as the grooves in the profile. And I think the reason why, no, I know the reason why they do that is so that you can use those grooves for cable management. And I've never really thought about that before because no other profile rig, including this one right here, has ever done that before. But the fact that they cut out the grooves to match the profile is pretty damn cool because you can literally run your cable management in the grooves that you're not using. And in profile, there are a ton of grooves everywhere and you're not using all of them. So I think that's really going to help out for cable management. They also include a whole pack of various little clamps and cable ties and stuff also for cable management. They also include a bunch of these corner brackets, which kind of go right here. Right, I haven't put any of them on. They typically fall out anyways. But these are GT Omega branded. Same with these end caps. They're also GT Omega branded. So, you know, these are not huge aspects, but, you know, these little things do kind of help make it feel a little more premium. You know what I mean? And then these are, you know, even these cheap profile rigs, they are expensive, especially when you purchase them with a seat. You know, if you get a profile rig, even these cheaper light versions, you're still going to be spending close to $1,000, at least $800, $900, something like that, depending on what seat you go with. And that is a lot of money. I think, again, this may change when I do the full review and after I use the seat, because this seat also seems very wide, maybe for a wider body type than me. I think if I was going to maybe do this over again at this point with what I see now, I probably would have just got the profile rig itself and sourced my own seat from somewhere else. But again, I will know more about that once it's time to do the full review, and then I'll give you an update on whether or not I still feel that way and all that good stuff. But, you know, just my thoughts right now after just building it. But again, guys, I haven't even had this on the ground. So take all of this with a grain of salt. This is just stuff that I'm noticing or I noticed as I was putting it together, and that's it. But overall, I think it's going to be great. Any profile rig is going to be money when it comes to being able to handle a direct drive wheel or whatever you may be putting on it. They're going to be fine. That's my thoughts, my first impressions after the build of the GT Omega Prime Lite cockpit. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so that you see when I upload the review for this and the comparison with the Track Racer TR80 Lite, which will be coming sometime soon in the near future. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it gave you some knowledge you were looking for. And thanks so much. We'll talk to you in the next video. We'll see you later.